What's up, fam? Welcome back to the Steep Stuff Podcast. It's been a minute. I'm your host, James Lariello. Excited to bring you guys an episode today with none other than La Sportiva athlete, my teammate, Mr. Noah Williams. Currently residing in Leadville, Colorado, by way of Vermont. Noah was kind enough to come on the pod to catch up. Just a few weeks removed from his fourth place finish at the Broken Arrow 46K, as well as a podium finish at the Lavaredo 80K just a week later. That's an impressive double he was able to throw down. Super fun to catch up with Noah. Noah is definitely one of the most competitive American athletes kind of on the international scene right now, both in Golden Trail and amongst some others. It was cool to get to kind of just chat with him, learn about why he got into the sport, kind of his whys, what it was like growing up in the North and up in Vermont, and just kind of what his plans are, you know, where he wants to take his career and just kind of plans like that, and where he plans to finish out the rest of his 2025 racing season. I couldn't think of a better time to have a conversation with him, given just what kind of heater he's been on. I know he would probably say that, you know, his Broken Arrow performance just a few weeks back was probably his most impressive performance of his career so far. And so this kid's got a bright future, and it's going to be fun to follow along. So buckle up. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's definitely a favorite of mine. Without further ado, Mr. Noah Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
Noah Williams, welcome to the Steep Stuff Podcast. How's it going, buddy?
It's good. Thanks for having me, James. I'm a long-time listener, so it's an honor.
Oh, dude, it's honestly, man, I've had you at the top of my list. Like I keep like ongoing like lists on my phone of people to have on the pod, and like you've been on my list forever. I just have not been able to put it together. So I feel like Broken Arrow and what you did at Lavaredo was just such an example to like, I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like we got to have you on. So excited to finally do this and have a chat, buddy.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, man. How are you feeling? Like you had like a kind of crazy couple weeks of racing, man. How's the recovery going?
Yeah, definitely still feeling it. Pretty tired. That was the plan for the whole winter. So I've definitely I knew it wasn't just going into that. Well, I guess Lavaredo felt like maybe winging it a bit with a distance that's a little longer than my normal, and then being a week later. But the Broken Arrow that was a big one that was on the list for a long time. And I also, and I think, focused on that for leading up to it. And it went so much better than I could have imagined. And I think it's the first time I've really noticed the skimo fitness translating directly and very well into running. In the past years, it's translated, but it's often a little tricky to get that fitness to kind of roll over. And so I think, maybe it's just years and years of it now. And overall feeling good. I mean, it's nice to be home. I'm in, Vermont visiting my brothers and my parents, and nice to be sort of on home, like familiar turf, but also just getting destroyed by humidity every day, of course. And but recovery's not bad. Nothing in particular is painful. I'm just still tired a week later. So yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. Yeah, dude, the humidity and the bugs, bro. Like it's it's buggy out here. I've got like destroyed on some of the trails. Like what?
Anyone who hangs out with me in Colorado knows that if you complain about mosquitoes around me in Colorado, I'm not going to even I'm not going to bat an eye, because I've learned the hard way, especially in Maine, where you just get destroyed. And it's like, if there's not 20 mosquitoes on my hands, in instantly, like they're not bad. They're not mosquitoes aren't too bad if there's a tolerance that you develop in the East Coast. So
No, for sure. And the flies, dude, the flies bite you here. I was like,
the
what
black
the hell?
flies, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the horse flies. Those are the worst. Watch
Yeah.
out for them.
Oh man. Well, dude, I gotta talk. I mean, I gotta give you your flowers, man. Broken Arrow was a hell of a performance. Like I would argue, I don't know if you feel the same way. Probably as far as like that world class group goes, like one of your best performances you've ever had. Like just like amazing.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like I've had a few in the past that have been close to that, but I would say I agree. I mean, that field was very intimidating beforehand to look at that. I don't know. I looked at the start list and I immediately regretted looking at the start list because it's impossible to feel like you can. It just gives you, yeah. I think my chances in my head, I'm starting to like, the rational part of me is like trying to figure out what my chances are, and like it starts to be a bit unhealthy, I think, when you look into it too much. So, but no, it was cool to see that was going to be assembled. I mean, certainly, I think everyone has been saying this, but the best 50K field ever assembled, marathon-ish 50K field ever assembled on U.S. soil, and
Easily.
and for it to be led by a guy like Eli and David, like, I mean, it's just a testament to, yeah, how world class that field is. And I think anyone in the top 20 of that race should be very thrilled with their performance. I mean, it was a big deal. And I think I happened to come out with that the first non-automatic spot, or as you would say, or the first non-podium. But those three guys were in their own race. It really wasn't a race. It was a race for fourth by the second lap, is what it felt like. And I think everyone in that 4 to 10 spot can sort of would agree, I would think. And I was getting chased by some really, really strong guys. But yeah, it all came down to that second lap, and the steep part of the second lap. I started having a feeling that is very fleeting. I felt it maybe in Pikes Peak Marathon 2022 when that was the race that got me on the world's team for Thailand. And I'd say it felt similar to that in the sense of just feeling almost out of body a little bit, like just you're doing something, and you have the potential for that kind of performance, but then you're doing it and you almost don't know how it's happening, sort of. So, and it's the kind of feeling that you chase. I mean, it's addictive, and you kind of that kind of thing keeps me going for years. I could have horrible performances for 5 years now, and I'll still be like, well, it might happen again. You never know. So that's
Oh
what's fun
man.
about racing.
Dude, I mean, you knocked it out of the park. Like,
Thank you.
I'm trying to think of like a follow up question. I got to ask more about like in the mix. Like, one of the things I found really interesting is that like you weren't obviously. It seemed like Eli, David, Ryan were pretty much just being chased the entire time, more or less. They were in a pack of their own, and it seems
Yeah.
like there was everybody else right behind them. It seemed like you moved up in that second lap. Was that the case? I mean, that was just what I could discern from the live tracker. But maybe
Yeah.
talk about like where you were able to make a move, because it seemed like a lot of guys wanted to be in the position that you were in, but couldn't just pull that part off to kind of be in that mix closer to the end of the race. Like, how did that work out for you?
Yeah. So the first lap, I was definitely trying to hold back, or conserve. No, you can't hold back, but sort of be sustainable. Feel like you're not redlining. But you're working well. You're just not really like totally spending yourself. The beginning is very runnable. I hadn't really seen much of the course. I'd heard about it. I watched the race 2 years ago. It was actually at Broken Arrow, but I didn't race because of a calf injury. And so this really felt like, I think that might have actually been part of the mentality for me, was just some feeling of redemption. But yeah, so that first 4 miles is pretty runnable. And I mean, it's like a train of like 20, 30 guys maybe, and everyone is hanging out. I mean, we're running 6:30 gaps, which, I think actually is conservative. But then people are like chatting, which is always a bit intimidating.
For
But
sure.
I had the realization a few miles in, I was like, this is the only maybe the only race in the US that this would happen where there's 30 this many guys running so quickly and so easily. And it honestly just that entire race, one of the themes was like just feeling sort of national pride for our the state of US trail running right now. It's really cool. But then really like that first part of the second lap, where the climb gets steep, going up to what do they call it, Storm King. That's where like Eli and David and Ryan established themselves. And actually Ryan was the one who really pushed that climb. And I watched that happen. And I had been chasing him in the ascent the day before. And I'm like, man, that is a ballsy move. Like that is I was impressed and I honestly thought it in my head, I'm like, that's a little maybe not that smart. Like I was thinking maybe that he's making the wrong move. But to his credit, obviously it was not the wrong move. He absolutely knocked. I mean, sure, I had a good race, but Ryan Becker, I'm so just shout out Ryan Becker. Like
Oh
he
yeah.
what a race. And I'm so proud of him for grinding and like you are no longer professional adjacent, Ryan. Like you are, you're there. You're right there. Yeah, that was a crazy race. So good for him. And I saw that happening, but I didn't want to. That was not the pack I needed to be, and that would have been redlining for me. And I think I'm glad I held back. Didn't realize they were going to put the gap on the field like they did, but that's just what happened. So I was actually in like eighth, ninth most of that first lap, hanging out with um, David Norris actually for a lot of that steeper climb. And we were both feeling like it was smart to sort of like conserve. And we didn't, but fourth wasn't pulling away. Like I could see fourth the whole, it was Jez and Cade Michael sort of going back and forth for fourth and fifth. And so they weren't really moving away at all. So I wasn't too worried. And we were honestly 4 to 9 was all sort of together going into the second lap. Cade took a quick pit stop. Very smart move on his part, always worth it. And then I was right in. And then, I sort of started, I felt like the first part of the second lap, I in that runnable section, I was not feeling that good. I was kind of like, I don't know. I saw Max King at one point cheering, and I kind of gave him this look of like, we'll see, man. Like, I don't know. I was really sort of waiting for things to kick in. And then as soon as we get to the steep part again, I see Jez and Cade, and they're not that far. They're fourth, fifth, and in my head, yeah, I think I just have a lot of confidence when it's steep and things get higher up to be for me. So, I think maybe I'm the only one who can say this. Everyone was talking about altitude, but that is not an altitude race for me. I
No.
mean, 6 to 8,000 feet. I mean, 8,000 is 2,000 feet lower than I sleep. So it's not it's low. In fact, for me, it's scary because it means I need to push harder and actually use the oxygen. And so I think maybe that was part of it was I was just feeling really strong as we got higher up. But yeah, I pretty quickly caught Kate and Jez, and that was I knew if I was moving up there that that's where you need to use momentum and actually make a move. And I dropped them pretty quickly, and I thought they would start to catch me in these little breaks. There's anyone who knows that course knows there's like these downhill breaks on that larger climb. And so it's not just a consistent climb. It requires, I mean, that whole course requires well-rounded running. The only thing it really misses is like super techy downhill sections. I think the downhills are incredibly smooth, but other than that, it's you got to be well-rounded to race well on that course. And I figured I'd get caught on the downs because that isn't necessarily my forte, is just slamming runnable downhills, but I was actually gapping them on the downs as well. And by the time I was closer to the ladder, I knew there was a good gap, and then I was just in no man's land. And but at the same time, like sort of was like starting to have the feeling of like, oh my God, I might do this. And maybe Ryan Becker. I figured of the three guys ahead of me, Ryan was the one who would fall back. No offense, Ryan, but like Ryan and David have proven that they don't typically fade. And Ryan has had some fades in the past, but this, thankfully for him, this time he knocked it out of the park. But anyway, that's was my mental motivation was maybe I can catch Ryan if he fades and get that lost auto spot. And And then I'm also thinking, Cade, Jezero Small, Brian Whitfield. I mean, just name a name and they're behind me and they're chasing and they're not going to give up. So there was no giving up until really I didn't feel like things were in the bag, as you might say, until I was getting out of Shirley. And Shirley was, I mean, you know, I went really deep. I don't know if anyone heard me at that aid station, but it was not pretty or it was ugly. Like I was just doing everything I could to like will myself, this may have come from Nordic skiing, but like I try to push over into a downhill because it gives you if you just kind of ease off at the top of a downhill, especially when you're in no man's land and not racing anyone, you can easily lose time without realizing it. So I was forcing that, and then and then I think by the time I hit the road mile out, I knew I had it, and that was or I was pretty sure no one was really close behind, and that turned out to be the case. And yeah, it felt amazing. I mean, just still sort of couldn't believe it when I was done, but also probably, obviously I wasn't sure that I was going to make the team, but I think fourth place makes a good case for the resume spot. And it's definitely a goal of mine to be on that team. So,
Well, dude, first off, thank you for painting the picture. That was like such a good race report. I appreciate that. I mean, I don't know how it works, but like, dude, I mean, I've heard rumblings that Eli's not taking a spot. Like, I knew that before the race was going in. So if Eli doesn't take the spot, it goes straight to you, right?
So it doesn't roll over. It would just mean that there's four resume spots instead of two, is
Gotcha.
how I understand it.
Gotcha.
But essentially, yeah, however you want to think of it. But there's six guys regardless. It's just a matter of how many people in the auto spots take it. And yeah, so we'll see. It'll be announced on the 15th. So yeah, excited to hear about what that looks like. But either way, I don't think the US is sending an incredible, like, yeah, not having Eli's, sure, would be a bit of a bummer, but I still don't think it's going to hurt us much. I think his reason to not do it is honorable, trying to focus on CCC. And yeah, like I talked to him after and he said, if someone else is more ready and more focused on worlds, then I want to give it to them. And I think that's a honorable position. But obviously, from my perspective, I mean, having Eli Hemming is definitely not a negative for the team.
No, dude's a weapon. Yeah. Yeah, he's first team all violence. Like, it would be really cool to have Eli on a team. Like, no doubt.
I mean, win OCC. That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
So.
For sure. Well, dude, what a race. Amazing to follow along, and just absolutely congratulations. Like, there's not many people that have ever run that fast on that course and just been able to do that. So yeah, you must have felt amazing. Let me ask you this. So the whole plan all along was to go to Broken Arrow and then go turn around and do Lavaredo the weekend after?
Yeah. It was.
So what'd you do? Hop a flight from like Sacramento or San Fran and like that weekend?
No, I drove from Broken Arrow back to Leadville.
Okay.
Girlfriend is currently hiking the PCT, Emma. I picked her up in Mammoth before the race, so she got to see the race, and her parents were there and all that, and got to see her dog, and that was really nice. And having her there was incredible. I mean, that definitely contributed to the performance I had. And then I dropped her off back in Mammoth after the race and drove 14 hours back to Leadville, had 18 hours in Leadville, which was nice, but way too brief. I love Leadville. I know, definitely don't. I'd like to stay there longer than that if I could, but then jumped on a plane and flew to Milan and had to stay in Verona a night actually because I screwed up. Oh, I just overlooked the Milan to Cortina travel, which if anyone's ever in Italy, don't. It is not easy to get from Milan to that side of the Dolomites. You can't just get trains easily, like I assumed. So that was just a little bit of a mistake. And then I ended up getting to Cortina Thursday, and I had been thinking about running the 50K, but I decided to do 80K mainly because it was a day later, and also I wanted to do a slightly longer distance, like closer to a 50-mile effort. And thank goodness, because if I had to do the 50K on Friday, I think I would have imploded pretty majorly. And plus the 50K field was absolutely stacked. I mean, Luca Del Pero and Francesco Pupi and Alex or Orbach, who's actually a really good skimo racer. But anyway, the the 80K, I have to admit, was, compared to the 120 and the 50K fields, not quite as stacked, um, but still that's exactly the distance that I want to start doing a bit more of.
Really?
It's kind of that great middle ground of, well, I still think my sweet spot is marathons and 50Ks. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I love Cirque Series. I love short, I love Kendall. Like these short races are still super fun and they're a lot more cutthroat. But I think I've been doing a ton of 6, 8, almost maybe even 10-hour skis in the winter with tons of vert, and like that sets you up really well for a 50-mile mountainous effort. So yeah.
What did you think of the experience, like going out there to race? Like, obviously, it's the home of La Sportiva, your sponsor. It's like such a beautiful area. Like, what was the reception like? What did you think?
Yeah, at first it definitely felt I was totally alone. I didn't really feel a ton of support right when I got there, but as soon as I started meeting Italians, and you're worried, you feel awkward because you don't speak Italian, and but it doesn't matter because they all speak English amazingly well, and they are so nice and welcoming. And as soon as they, sort of heard my background, and I think some of them had been anticipating me being there, but a lot of them didn't know me. And so, yeah, I stayed with two guys on the Italian team, who one was in the 50K, one was in the 120. Shout out Jacopo and Alessio, great guys. Gave me a lot of good advice. And Alessio, the guy in the 120, he had done this is like his 7th year at Lavaredo, so he knew the course. He gave me all the tips, and yeah, it was really cool. They're just one big family. La Sportiva is family owned still, and I think that's awesome. I think I mean, I don't know how you feel. I know you're supported by them as well, and like I think it's really cool that because they can make decisions that a bigger brand wouldn't be able to, or and so yeah, got to hang out with them after the race. We had a really fun night, and they were like, "How are you still out like drinking with us?" And I was like, "Dude, I'm just a normal guy." And they were like explaining like that if you're performing like this in Europe, you're like a superstar, so you wouldn't even think about staying out late and like, hanging out with employees. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. In the US, like nobody really cares about this. So like, don't think of ourselves as like, I'm just a normal person. I don't really. So there was one other Italian guy, partying it up a little, but yeah, man, time got away from me that night. It was so much fun. They were just, really, really welcoming. And, I had an awesome time. I mean, that was definitely part of the input. Like it seems silly as an athlete to do squeeze all the racing into an 8-day period. But, a major part of the motivation for me was to make the connection with La Sportiva Italy and see what they're all about. So.
Yeah, dude, I got to be honest with you, dude. When I saw that email from Kelsey like earlier in the year, I would kick myself for not taking the opportunity and going. Like I feel like
it'll be there. Yeah,
yeah,
so,
next year.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. And I'd been to the Dolomites 2 years before that, and just terrible weather, and was in the Tre Cime de Lavaredo area. Like I should have been able to see the Tre Cime, the beautiful sort of like spires, tower, sort of outcrops, but I couldn't see anything because it was just fog and rain. And so this time I saw it right after the first climb. We were going straight through that area with that gorgeous view. And so, I mean, it was almost in the beginning, it felt like a bit of a sightseeing race. And then it got really hard really quickly. So
was it super technical course or?
No, I actually wouldn't consider it super technical. It's actually quite runnable, but it is also dense with climbing, like definitely lots of climbing, but it's all fairly runnable. I talked to several sort of more locals. Martina, blanking on her last name. She's an incredible Italian skimo athlete, friends with Courtney. And so I was talking to her, and she said they actually basically like that course like skips they could be technical, but it skips a lot of the technicality, and sort of goes for like the more runnable roads, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
Mountain.
there were a handful of sections that were like techie,
Mhm.
but nothing like New England. I mean, no.
Yeah.
So
That's super cool, man. Yeah. It's sorry, my dog's squeaking a toy in the background. It's throwing me off.
okay.
um, yeah, no, what a cool experience. It's just what a badass course. Like, what? And how did the race unfold for you personally? Like, obviously, you got on the podium. Like, were you running by yourself? Were you chasing? Were you with a big group of guys? Like, how did that unfold for you?
Yeah, we started out faster at a higher effort than what the Broken Arrow field felt like in the beginning, which I was looking at Drew Holman. I was like, I'm like, this is like too much.
Euro.
Yeah, exactly. I sort of anticipated that, but it's like until you really see it happen, you're like, it's just funny because most of those guys just completely, well, they didn't blow up, but they just weren't in the race
Just
by the
fall
end.
off. Yeah,
Yeah, but it was kind of a douche grade road climb right off the bat, so that might have been part of it too. Which honestly, that's kind of my thing. Like I love, mining grade roads in Colorado. It sort of ends up actually being something I do a ton. So it felt like my home turf in a way. And then we got onto the trail, and by the top of that first climb, there was pretty much, let's see, 6 or 7 of us, and nobody was really like breaking away. Drew and I were right there in the mix, and I was pleasantly surprised to be in that group. So, because I sort of figured I would feel it out by the time the top of that first climb happened, I figured I would have a good sense of whether I'm like going for podium or just sort of like taking a sightseeing tour around the Dolomites, you know. But decided, all right, I think I can hang with these guys, and felt like I was not pushing super hard. It was a hard climb. It was steep, but then we had a lot of runnable down after that, and I got into a good groove with Drew it was probably the longest runnable flat section. It was actually like, yeah, super super chill, slightly downhill kind of into that first aid, which was like 25K in. Um, and Drew and I were right together. It was the top four were all together. It was really nice to just run with Drew and like chat, feel like I was at home a little bit. I was having a lot of doubts because it's not my distance, and it was like, I'm not going to feel good later in the race because of Broken Arrow. And Drew was awesome. He was super encouraging, and he just said, like, look, like if you're hurting, everyone else is going to be hurting too. Like, don't count yourself out. And that was a great confidence boost. And it's like, I don't know, I didn't know Drew, still don't know him super well, but um I can tell he's a really, really nice guy, incredibly humble, and like, yeah, if anyone gets a chance to run with Drew, he's awesome. But left that aid with Drew, and we were in second and third. And he pretty much right away as we were climbing out of that aid, like he pulled away. He probably put a minute in a mile on me actually. And I just knew. And he had the special Nike shirt that everyone obsessed with now after Caleb's incredible Western States performance. But it was funny because now it's fun. Like I get to say that I didn't see it because of Caleb Olson. I saw it in the middle of a race when Drew put it on. And I gave him shit right away. I was like, "What are you wearing? Like, what are you a stylist now? Like, is this like, is fashion your new thing?" Like, but I'm running next to him. So as soon as I give him crap, I'm running next to him, and it's starting to get hot. And I'm like literally getting splashed on, like just being near him. And I was like, okay, maybe this thing is. And then sure enough, he just pulls away, and talked to him after the race, and he said he did just feel really good. He wasn't hot at all. And I was starting to feel the heat. And, at that point I was realizing, okay, I'm in third. I need to go a pace that is sustainable here. Like and I have 29 more miles. Like I need to go with however much more climbing. This, whatever I was going to keep up with Drew would have been maybe more of a 50K effort, was what that would have, what I was thinking. So yeah, decided to kind of just go my own pace. And from then on, it was just, I was in no man's land the whole rest of the race. Just a gap to second, and I knew I had a gap behind me to fourth because I couldn't see anyone, and just passing 120K runners and trying not to slow down, trying to stay consistent and eat. And I felt solid. I mean, it wasn't getting any better, like, but I wasn't fading super hard. I was sort of just waiting for something to sort of hit a wall. Um, got to Colgalena, which is kilometer 56. And my parents were there. I actually had no like specific support plan. I just sort of got what I needed from aides, and it actually thankfully worked out fine. I'm also lucky that with the altitude advantage, my stomach is not nearly as much of an issue if we're staying below 8,000 or 9,000 feet. So I don't feel like I need super specific nutrition. If I'm at altitude, that's a real altitude. Sorry. I know that sounds pretentious, but what are you going to do? I live in Leadville. Sorry. Yeah, if it's above 10, then that's a different story. But if it's not, then I think I can sort of get away with like different types of food and not anything super specific. So anyway, parents were just sort of there for moral support, and it was awesome. I had been looking forward to that for probably 10 miles because I was totally alone, and it was just I was beginning to suffer, but not. Luckily, they didn't see me like totally in the pain cave. I think well, they've seen that before, so they know what they're getting into. But yeah, after that was when it really started getting rough. There was a long climb out of Colgalena, and that was when I was like, I might start fading back through the field here. And I think it was just strong enough. You know, there was a lot of, after that last climb out of Colgalena, there wasn't a ton of climbing left. It was mostly going downhill, but it was just very short, punchy climbs. One in particular that was just soul crushing and more than you expect. Like, you know, when an Italian tells you it's all downhill, don't believe them because that's not the case. Finally I get to the last col or pass, and I can see Cortina, and it's like, okay, now it's actually all downhill, and I was very relieved. And then of course that last downhill is the worst of them. Like it probably at one point felt like we descended 1,500 or 2,000 feet in a mile. Like it reminded me of Sierras and all. I was just like, you know, but I was 45 miles in, so it was awful. I think I straight up stopped on that really steep section because I just had, the pain was too bad. And I must have lost time there quite a bit on Drew and Dominic. And then probably fourth was starting to catch me, but I just had a big enough gap. And luckily, as soon as it mellowed out and got more runnable, I just ran it in. And, you know, I hit the streets of Cortina, and then there's no pain. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, what a race. That's crazy. Would you like better? Did you like, do you think you'll go back and race something like that if we have the opportunity to in the future? Yeah.
Yeah, I might actually want to do the 50K in the future, especially if I'm not, you know, back to backing it like I did this year. In terms of which, were you going to ask about Broken Arrow versus Lavaredo?
Yeah.
I
Now that
think
you've got to see like 2 loops on Broken Arrow.
Yeah, I mean, course-wise, Lavaredo, hands down. I mean, it's epic. It's absolutely insane. Anyone who's racing the Dolomites knows what I'm talking about. It's just, I mean, I need to go back and soak it in and actually enjoy the views. I mean, every single time I got to a pass, I'm just blown away, like absolutely spectacular scenery. But race-wise, Broken Arrow for sure. Way more competitive, way more cutthroat. Like I was running scared, much more scared at the end of Broken Arrow than I was at the end of Lavaredo. But you know, at the same time, like there was less on the line once I had that performance at Broken Arrow, so that was definitely huge. Like I think going into any race feeling like you have nothing to lose is a very good position to be in. And if you ever think a competitor has that mentality, you should look out because they're going to sandbag you and say, "Oh, there's nothing. I don't really care. There's nothing to lose." You should watch out for whoever this is saying because yeah, I had an inkling that it could go well, but I especially with the international travel, you know, I mean, I was pretty good that week though. Even though I was traveling a lot, you know, I'm the kind of person that I enjoy beer. Like I like having a beer or two a night kind of thing, nothing crazy, but I didn't drink at all that week. I was like, I need to I was all about recovery. It was all okay. I had one beer the night before just to like settle the nerves, but compared to my normal routine, that was a big change. And I think it makes a difference. I think, I mean, maybe I should do that all the time, except that won't happen. I mean, I like my little my small pleasures in life. I think it's important to like have a balance. But yeah, for certain specific time frames, just really, really going all in and like on recovery, I think that helped. And but yeah, mostly it was the confidence from the winter and really, I mean, the confidence from Broken Arrow was a big thing too. So
It's interesting. I got to ask you about the training question, man. And this is something that's been, it's just like on my mind and something I bring up to a lot of people because it's a constant debate because you live so high up, right? And my question with living so high up is like when you get to these races at lower altitudes, your ability to generate power. And it's like, that's not an issue for someone like you. And Cam has the same thing. Cam doesn't have a problem with being able, obviously, Cam spends like weeks in the gym. I don't know what your schedule is like and how you're able to do it, but like, it's just interesting to me seeing guys come from higher altitudes and still being able to perform really well. Like you've got that advantage, obviously, from like almost like your ability to utilize oxygen, but also it's the ability to generate power, which has me so perplexed.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like I don't do a ton of extra stuff. I think I could benefit from that. One of the factors for me is that my job in the winter is ski patrol. And I do think, first of all, I think skimo in general sort of builds power like even if you're at high altitude, I think you can generate or you can, I'm building muscle groups that are good for generating power in running just because I'm doing that much vert all the time. I mean, in previous winters, so the way I generally measure volume in the winter is I generally measure volume by hours. But in the winter, I focus a little bit more on vert because that seems to sort of be more relevant. And then in the summer, it's a combo of those of mileage, hours, and vert for running. But in this winter, in previous winters, I've been able, so I work 4-day weeks and I have a split week. So I work 2 days on, 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 2 days off. So and that's specific, like my boss allowed me to do that because I'm an athlete. If I worked less than 4, I wouldn't get paid. So that's not an option for me. But um, the what allows me to do is on those days off, I can do those 6 to 8 hour skis. And that's pretty much what I was doing. I mean, 6 to 8 hours once a week. And then on the other days, I'm doing, minimum 2 to 4 with probably more intensity. Some hard climbing at some point. I mean, I would say most of my intensity comes from just hard climbs, and that's what motivates me. I try to focus on what really motivates me is like interesting terrain. I really like finding um big climbs and just dialing them in. I mean, at first it was kind of Elbert in the summer. I would dial in Elbert. Everything. Your mic just went rogue.
Yeah, just completely went up. No, we're good to keep going.
No, so yeah, like Elbert's been a staple of mine. I found some really great training terrain in Camp Hale or outside of Camp Hale. A lot of people don't know that area. There's more snowmobile traffic, but there's a ton because of that, they have good groomed terrain, good groomed like trails. And like so I don't have to always break trail, and I'm almost always training on my 65 underfoot skimo setup. So because it's just the lightest, and I've been able to find some like 2,000 to 2,500 foot climbs that are super just good for training, like not crazy steep, but like steep enough that I can really get some good power output. And then yeah, I'm honestly not in the gym much, but I do think skimo I think Cam might agree a little bit here. Like skimo builds strength in a very specific way, especially with a poling. Like it keeps my upper body engaged. It keeps my aerobic system a little bit more diverse, I guess, if that's even a thing. Again, I'm self-coached, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass a little here. Like, I don't,
dude, it's you figure out the formula that works for you. So it's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and I think that is huge. I think any coach sort of knows that. But yeah, so basically not really in the gym a ton. I don't do a ton of specific stuff there, but I do think I get sort of like inherent strength from the activities I'm doing on ski patrol. Like if I'm running a patient down the hill in a toboggan, that's 200 or 300 pounds behind me that I have to support and control. And I do think there's sort of inherent strength there. I also think being on your feet all day. I mean, I've used the term ghost volume before because it doesn't. I'm not going to record everything on Strava at
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
and so I sort of think that get volume, or at least maintain a baseline of fitness. Because so I guess going back to winter volume for a second, to be the big difference this season was I was probably doing more like maybe 10 grand of vert a week, maybe 15 in previous winters. Whereas this winter, it was pretty much always closer to 20,000 feet, which ended up being, 10 to 15 hours. And on top of the 4-day work week. And so probably essentially a 50% increase in volume compared to previous winters.
Okay.
And that I do think that amount of volume has transferred to running incredibly well this year. And I had the feeling in May when I was sort of doing my major transition towards running and mountain running, I just started feeling like climbing was really good. Like nothing was crazy. I never, nothing was super sexy about it. Like it was just sort of like, oh, that felt good. That felt solid. And it maybe wasn't even my fastest segment like I've ever done on that, whatever climb it was, but it would just be like pretty close to the fastest and significantly less effort than I've felt in the past. So I had an inkling that the climbing was going well, but no, I had a ton of doubt going into Broken Arrow. I mean, I think even those top three guys for sure,
Huge
like
doubt. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
looking at a field like that, it's a roll of the dice. You really have no idea. But it's exciting. And like, I think if the major takeaway for me was like, focus on yourself, like don't get caught up in no offense, podcasts. It's easy to get like roped into media and hearing what other people are doing. I think it's great to listen to, but don't let that influence your routine and what the things that get you fit. Because I think anyone at my level knows what gets them fit, like whether you're coached or not,
You got to know yourself.
coached
Yeah.
or coached by someone else. But yeah, yeah, focus on your process because everyone's slightly different. And it's a young sport. Like we don't we're not dialed in like cycling or road running or track running where like everyone knows exactly what it is. We're just not that developed yet. So it's great. It's awesome. It's a really cool time to figure out, what works. And I think one thing, like, it's cool to see like Nordic skiing, that background clearly there's something about that kind of background that translates into, mountain running and trail running. And I think skimo is sort of right in that same vein. And people are just discovering that in the US. I mean, Euros have been doing it for decades, but, anyway, sorry.
No, dude, you're on it. I think there's so much to unpack out of that. I think number one, dude, it's funny. I don't really listen to well, first off, I definitely don't listen to my own podcast, but like, I don't really consume running media just because like you get a lot of advice and a lot of it's bullshit and a lot of it just doesn't work for you. You have to find what works for you. That's the first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
you think you're totally right. And dude, but it's so interesting too. Like I'll take Eli, for example, and you could take probably, well, I know Ryan's on skis a little bit, but like Eli's not really on skis at all, right? And like different dudes get different, like everybody gets fit for a race in so many different ways. Some people are on the bike, there's a million different ways to get ready for something. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm not saying skimo is the only way. I mean,
No, but I get it.
David Sinclair, you can't forget him. He's doing like World Cup skimo, and same with Cam, right? Like I'm not doing the most skimo either. I think it works for me and it clearly works for other guys. And I think one of the things that's huge is the mental mix up. Like I ran year round in college, the track cross country grind. And if I were still doing that, well, I wouldn't be running, I don't think. It's just at the end of the winter, I get really excited for running. And then at the end of in the fall, I get really excited for skimo again. And that seasonality approach has always worked for me. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's very common, and like you see, like I think Jim, in a lot of ways, made that more well known when he made his video about UTMB. Right, he did like when he goes to Europe, does a full skimo season, and then kind of goes into running, and I think that opened a lot of people. I guess you could say normies is probably the right word. Opened the eyes to like people that aren't really in the sport to kind of see, or maybe they're in a sport to a certain extent to see like how some of that works. So it's interesting.
I mean, we're such a diverse sport. It's really exciting. You can come into it from so many different angles. And I think hopefully people can just see that there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is where I was going with this. And just because this is out of pure curiosity from a training perspective, obviously for a race like Broken Arrow, like you need turnover. Like it's a running. You're not really hiking at all. It's a run. You're running pretty much every step of that course. Are you, when you're transitioning off the skis onto running again, are you hitting track workouts? Like, what are you doing for turnover and run economy? Are you just playing in the mountains, just running?
For the most part,
that's incredible.
I mean, I do strides. I think strides are great. I always could do a little bit more of them. Yeah, I struggle a lot with the extra stuff. And it's possible what I'm doing is like I feel like it's sustainable right now. But maybe in a couple of years, I look back and I'm like, man, I wasn't doing enough extra work. I do find as I'm getting older, I mean, I just turned 30, like, um, you do have to put a bit more work in. Recovery isn't as easy as it used to be. But I think what's not getting any worse is the overall volume, like I'd call it historic volume. You've probably heard that term, but you just keep building on it and it gives you this reserve that you can always fall back on, even if you get injured for a long time and you're out. I mean, I know you're coming back from an injury right now, like you know how that goes, but the more background you have in just being active and living, it doesn't even need to be training, like living an active lifestyle. I mean, I did 2 years of like just sort of seasonal, like ski instructing and summer camp work. I was active. I was outside all the time, but I wasn't training. And I needed that mental break from college. But I do think my college background and just like competitive, sort of that traditional pedigree, as you might say, like I ran D3, I ran at Williams College. So it was not at all like crazy competitive, but I had I had a lot of formal running training, and I had a great high school coach and a great college coach who taught me a lot about training structure and running economy. And I think those years improved my running economy amazingly well. And I do think that I, in some ways, haven't lost that. But yeah, I do think strides are important. I think if you're not going to do track work and you want to be running, well, yeah, like marathons and 50Ks or shorter, you really need to be at least doing strides because it gives you that snap. You need to have some neuromuscular work basically. And I think I could do a lot more of that. I mean, that's a huge area of improvement that I could work on. But I also, I did Golden Trail for the last 2 years and I struggled, man. Like, and I think that was part of it. I think by the end of last year, so I placed 32nd in the world ranking, which is just outside of the top 30, which means you don't get invited back the next year. And so I took it I was pretty bummed, honestly. And then I started realizing it was an opportunity to move on and move into these distances that I feel like are that suit me better. But also, I think part of the reason I was struggling to compete in Golden Trail, like I was hanging, but I wasn't knocking it out of the park ever. Is because I don't do as much speed work. And to be honest, speed work or specific workout structures and stuff like that, maybe it's just that I haven't done enough or lately, but it doesn't excite me the same way. I try to focus a lot more on what's motivating me. Like if I'm doing a workout and I'm not in it mentally, I mean, I'm not going to, that's, it doesn't even matter what the workout is. I'm not going to get whatever benefit I'm looking for. Whereas if I'm running a hard climb in a beautiful place and I'm excited about the terrain I'm in, I mean, I did a couple of weeks in the Eastern Sierra before Broken Arrow, partly supporting my girlfriend on her through hike and partly training. And I was just loving it. I was just like smashing these huge climbs and being like just in total awe of the scale of the Eastern Sierra. And I think that being excited for training mentally matters a lot more than whatever specific, how much zone 4 are you doing or how much. I just don't think, for me at least, those details don't matter as much as the sort of mental drive to get out the door every day and to go kick ass.
Yeah. Well, dude, whatever you're doing's working, bro. So don't change it.
I mean, I guess it is. But again, it's like it is easy to look at other people's stuff and think, what am I doing wrong? So
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't like we said, there's more than so many different ways to skin a cat, so many different ways to get right fit for a race and do stuff like that. That's so interesting on the Golden Trail side, man. Like I mean, obviously I know, like, you got your Garrett Corcorans of the world, like that come from such a traditional
Garrett.
Yeah, wild boy. Just like he comes from such a traditional background in the sense of like the D1 and everybody's different.
And sub 4 in the mile.
He's so fucking and like you know what, dude, the funny thing about him too is like I wish I could be, at least I don't know. I don't know Garrett super well. Like I've had him on the pod. I know him, but like I don't know him like a friend know him. But like he comes across like very nonchalant. Like he just like is very relaxed about it. Whereas like that's just interesting to me where you get people that are the total opposite. That are like super professional and super serious. And our sport's just at a crossroads where you get so many different kinds of people, especially like on the Golden Trail side, which is interesting.
Yeah, and I have to shout out Garrett too, because he made those 2 years on Golden Trail far more enjoyable. Like I think some of the Euros on that circuit started seeing us as the party American boys or whatever. But like I'm not this isn't everything in my life. You know what I mean? This isn't all that matters to me. And I have Ski Patrol, I have a great community in Leadville. Like if races don't go well, it's okay. It's not a huge deal. And I think he's in that mindset too, like, because he also came from that crazy track background. Like, I think that is a nice sort of perspective that you get from track is if you do have that background, especially a D1 background, you know where you stand. Like, we're not Olympic track runners here. I think even look at Chris Myers, the small boy thing, like that comes from being in Boulder and realizing that, just put it in perspective. Like we're trail runners. We're not all that, we're not like making millions of dollars here. Like, so don't take it so seriously, like have fun with it. I mean, who knows, in 20 years, this might not be possible. We might be fully so professional that if you have 2 beers a night, you're not competing, and sure, it'll be, I'll watch it from my armchair and laugh.
It'll be on TV at that point. Yeah.
Sure. And that's probably going to be cool. But I think we're also diverse enough that, hopefully we can hang on to the sort of the grassroots nature of it too. And anyway, Garrett embodies that really well, I think. And I mean, he has a hip injury right now and like couldn't finish the 46K, which, he's never DNF'd. And it's so hard to DNF in a big race like that, especially when everyone's talking about you and how you're a big contender. And then instead of going and like anyone would have been reasonable to do, go sulk and hide or not want to be around the finish. He's right there. He's high-fiving me. He's handing out PBRs. Like,
I was gonna say, he was at the bar with Michelino.
So cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just so, same with Michelino. He's not racing because he's injured, but he's there and he's cheering people on and having a good time. And like, those are the people you want to be around, so.
No, I love it, man. I think that, and that's the embodiment of the sport that I enjoy. I got to ask you this, like, where do you want the sport to go? Like, what direction? Because like we see this dichotomy now where there's like this ultra professionalism. and I just still think that, like, yeah, I know there's like 6-figure contracts getting thrown around now to people, but it's like, even with that, to me, I think we're still not a very like serious sport, and I don't think it should be. I think it's about, first and foremost, at least to me, the way I feel, like, it's about the mountain culture and like embodying that and like having fun in the mountains and doing your best to test yourself in the mountains. And that's what it should be. But I don't know. You tell me.
No, for me, it's all about being out in the mountains as much as possible. And just, there's so many things about that. I think you get it in other sports, right? Hikers get it, skiers. I mean, I'm almost more of a skier than a runner probably, but, the mountains make you feel small, and it gives you a humility that, I mean, mountaineers know this more than anyone, right? It just, you are not, I'm never out there being like, I smashed that climb, so now I have conquered this mountain. Like, if anything, the harder I smash a climb or put an effort in the mountains, the more humbled I feel. I'm just feeling like lucky to have escaped, lucky to have been in a cool place. And not gotten injured or gotten in crazy weather. Plenty of times I have gotten into it, crazy weather. And I mean, my thing is speed is safety in the mountains, honestly. But in terms of trail running as a sport, I think I do want to see it in the Olympics. I think it absolutely deserves a place in the Olympics. I think it's probably going to look like other sports where there's an Olympic discipline of trail, and I think that's fine, right? It allows for more eyes and more diversity, and the sport's going to grow because of that. I mean, it's already growing because of things like Golden Trail, and I think Greg Volley has a great vision with that. He wants to give the IOC a good example of what trail could look like in the Olympics, and the flower format's an amazing idea. I think he knows from the mountain bike how the Olympics changed mountain biking, that we don't want the same loop over and over, because that's just pretty lame. And but even if that is the case, right? Hopefully it isn't. Even if it is, that it will be the Olympic discipline. It's not going to be all of trail. It's not. I think I've heard people make arguments of, and I was in that boat too at first when I thought about the Olympics. Or trail being in the Olympics, it's like, oh no, I wouldn't want that. But I think that I've come around to, like, we could definitely, it would be really cool to see the sport keep growing the way it has been. I think we should just celebrate our diversity, and the fact that we can have, you know, hundreds of thousands of people watching the Cocodona 250 live stream, and then a couple weeks later, the same number of people watching Broken Arrow or Western States. I mean, there's just so many different things to get excited about. Honestly, I do feel like it's coming around now, but ultra running and ultras in general have taken the limelight in terms of media in a bit too much. I think it actually has taken away from development of sub ultra, and I don't even think we should call, like, even the fact that we need to say the word sub ultra, because everything has to be in relation to ultra. I mean,
Ooh, I like that. I like
this is a hot take. There are going to be people that disagree with me here, but look, ultra running is not that competitive. It is competitive in two races, Western States and UTMB. Okay. And I'm not like Western, in both those races are incredibly competitive. When you're winning a race by hours, it's a race, sure, but it's not competitive. And you can even just do the math. You can normalize for distance. It's just not, it's a newer sport. There's less people involved. There's less people that want to destroy their bodies in that way. And I think what's happened media has focused so much on these ultra events because, I think there's like maybe more potential for storytelling, but I think it's just this weird sort of bias is particularly in the US towards ultra running. I mean, I've gotten pressure from previous sponsors that have told me, well, we would love to just see you get top 10 at Western. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go represent the US for the 40K team at Worlds. They don't know what that even means. And it's a shame. It really is. Like these brands, some of these brands in particular need to wake up and realize that the competitive sub ultra scene is where you're going to find future competitive ultra runners.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
what do you
100%.
think is going to happen when the East Africans decide to move up to 100 miles? Like, do you think Western's going to be over 13 hours? No. They're going to get a cool year and they're going to run insanely fast because it's a track. Okay, sorry. I know there's climbing in Western. I don't want to go too
It's
far
not
with
very
it.
technical. It's not technical at all.
No,
I
it's
mean,
it's Cali carpet for
yeah.
sure, but there is a lot of climbing. You can't deny that, even though it's net downhill. But I'm just saying, like, I mean, my thing with Western is more that it's not an inspiring course. I don't think it's that interesting. And I think, even Caleb Olson was saying this after the race. I think it's really cool how competitive it is and the history around it. But I think we obsess over it too much, to be honest. I think
Ooh,
I
I
get a
like
little
that.
tired of seeing all the Western stuff. And hey, I want to run it someday too. Don't get me wrong. I think when I run it, I'll understand the race better and I'll have a better perspective. But yeah, I think if we're gonna get more people into this sport, we should be promoting things closer to Golden Trail. Um, not everyone has to be running these crazy fast times, but it's like, who's gonna look at 100 and be like, I want to run 100 now? Like, it's just, first of all, it's unfair. You shouldn't just jump into running and run 100 miles, but you can easily jump into a trail half or a trail 10K or something like Cirque. I mean, Julian Carr and what he's doing with Cirque is incredible. Like, those races should be more, there should be more eyes on those races, I think, than there are. And so anyway, that's my rant, and I'll end it there. I still respect a lot of American ultra runners, but I also think they're lingering in this weird time period where it just hasn't gotten that competitive yet, and they have these big egos that are overblown by the media.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, dude, I couldn't agree
so
more.
anyway, sorry, ultra runners, look out. Like sub ultra guys are coming, and it's not going to slow down. So
Well, that's the thing, dude. Like, and when these dudes start moving up, because that's the thing. Like, it is. We all know how. All right, Broken Arrow 46K, probably the best example. Most of those guys have not run 100 miles. Most of those guys are kind of like in between the 50K and down distance, more or less. You see Eli now, who's moving up and has moved up. You'll go to CCC. Dude, Eli's going to absolutely wipe the floor with everybody at CCC. More than
yeah, I
likely.
mean, we'll see. I think he's respecting the distance. I think that's always, anyone jumping up in distance, you have to, right? Like, but I think, um, yeah, I'm curious to see how he goes for sure.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think I think I agree with you. I would predict he's gonna contend. Eli's the kind of guy, he's not gonna go into a race without trying to win the race. He knows he's that good, and he should be trying to do that. I think Jim took that mentality, has taken that mentality too. And I think Eli is totally capable of that as well. So
yeah. And to your point too with brands, yeah, dude, and this actually goes to the Ryan Becker subject, because I've talked to Ryan so many times about this, where it's the why am I not sponsored conversation, but it's like at the same time, it's like you can be one of the most consistent athletes in the sub ultra category, or kind of that 50K distance and down. But then, for instance, someone goes and, I don't know, maybe like gets on the podium of Black Canyon, right? But it's dropped a bunch of races before, not even done that much. Goes and gets on the podium of Black Canyon randomly, and then they wind up with a contract for the Toka or whatever. It's like, what the fuck?
I think Francesco Pupi, it was really cool to see that he turned down his golden ticket, Golden States ticket, whatever it is.
Probably would have won too this year.
Sure, he could have, yeah, certainly mixed it up with those guys. I think, but one of his points was that my vision of trail running is not Western State centric. And I think it was almost a relief for me to hear that, because he's such a big figure. And for him to make that point was just, it was like, thank God someone with that kind of following is finally speaking up about how Western States it's like not all that it is. I mean, it's just, there's so much more to do than go run downhill through hot canyons in the heat of the summer. I mean, um, but uh, but yeah, so I think another thing that I thought was interesting about Francesco's story is he was talking about Lavaredo in this context of I think it was what a couple of years ago he won the 50K for the first time and just ran insane, like huge course record. Like he was, and so I was before I heard this, I had this mentality of, oh, this sub ultra or this ultra bias is in mostly in America. But he was saying, well, he felt like a lot of he'd been on Golden Trail for several years before that, just crushing it, like making podiums and like running with the best in the world in sub ultra. And then, of course, figured he could have a chance for the win and the course record at Lavaredo. But a lot of people in Italy didn't respect him that much. And then all of a sudden, as soon as he wins Lavaredo 50K, there's all this respect and media hype and attention. And he was like, well, I don't know how you didn't like for him, it's like, how did you not see it coming? You know, and I think anyone who is a huge fan of his probably felt the same way. Like he was gonna do that, you know? And like I think, someone who's like, if you don't know who Eli Hemming, well, I mean, who doesn't at this point? But if you're overlooking Eli Hemming in CCC, I mean, you figure it out because
Yeah, good luck.
yeah, he's gonna crush. And I think, yeah, we're just seeing that happening more and more. And yeah, there's a new wave coming in that is spending their time in the short races while they're young and doing because first of all, you can race more. I mean, geez, I mean, I want to race more than less if I can. If I run hundreds, I can race maybe 3 times a year, and that's probably even a bit much. So racing more, training that higher intensity, I think when you're young, I mean, absolutely, it's great. It'll come in handy in those ultras when you're older. And then moving more gradually into ultra, I think one of the things about that ultra bias that's so damaging is you're seeing people come right out of college and go straight to 100K 100 miler, and it's not even their fault. Like they're being incentivized by these brands to do that. Like if all the brand cares about is top 10 at Western, you're going to force young athletes into 100 miles. That's what's going to happen. And like, it's a shame because they could be crushing Golden Trail. They could be crushing 50Ks. They could make the short trail 40K team. Like, and so I think it's wasted talent. But I also do think it's better than it was 10 years ago. Like there's, and partly like, I think, to be clear, James, like your pod is helping with that because, and the sub hub as well, like having things focused specifically on shorter trail running or mountain running as it's called in Europe and as it should be called in the US. Well said. Yeah, it's good to see more eyes on that part of the sport.
Yeah, I think that's a big opportunity, man, is like where we can continue to just get more eyes on this section of the sport, if you will. Just because, listen, man, like there was one thing about like, it drove me nuts. Like when they put their stuff out there about, I started so much shit. By accident. I wasn't really trying to. They like put like their favorites out, their favorite picks for the ascent. And I was like, dude, where the fuck is Joe Gray? Like, you're not going to have Joe Gray on your favorites? Like, what are we doing here? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Somebody we all know.
Yeah. That's a great point or the Joe Gray point always has to be brought up in the discussion of the ultra bias, because I think he's suffered from that bias. And I don't know if he feels this way, but I think he suffered from it significantly. But it's also that he's so consistently good. He's just always there. And so people just expect that. But if you take any one of those performances, I mean, he was, what is he, 41, 42?
I think he's 41. Yeah.
41. He was second in that ascent. That's incredible. Like if that was just his first time showing up and doing that, that would have been a huge story. But it's Joe Gray. So they're like, oh, well, that's Joe Gray. That's what he does. And it's like, he gets so little credit. And it's such a shame. Like he's a huge advocate for diversity in the sport, first of all, which is awesome. It's amazing for him to, be giving that sort of giving that perspective on the sport. And also I love that he's always like, I'm only going to race if there's prize money. Like that's awesome. I mean, he's a professional. He's making money. He needs to make money. If you're not going to
feed his
offer him,
family.
that's what he always says. And that's a great point. Like he's not messing around here. He acts like a track runner in trail as he should, because he's at that level. And there's a reason he's made every world's team since 2008 without even doing a resume spot. Like he is the GOAT. If you talk about goats in trail running and you mentioned Jim before you mentioned Joe, I'm going to disagree with you. Like Joe Gray comes before Jim. I'm sorry. Like, and I would, maybe Jim agrees, but either way, it's because he has stayed in those shorter races, and he's proving, like, and I think Max King proves this as well. Like you can make that your career now. Like, and maybe 10 years ago that wasn't the case, but you don't have to move up to ultra. You can stay in the short trail and continue crushing all the way into your 40s. Andy Wacker's starting to do that now, like competing. I mean, Andy creates his own competition basically with the trail team, which is a whole different interesting topic, I think. But yeah, I don't think, going back to your free trail point, I think Dylan is celebrating diversity in a good way. I think maybe 5 years ago, I would agree he did focus too much on ultras, but I think he's in some way it's impossible to ignore now. I mean, right? Like with guys moving up the way they are and crushing in ultra, having had short mountain running careers, you can't even ignore it. And so I think, I think their bias is becoming less and less. And I think he does a good job of celebrating our diversity in trail running. And he does sort of have to talk about everything because he has these all more specific media groups now. And also that is his background. Like that's his bread and butter. I mean, that Hard Rock performance he had, I forget what year, like,
oh, amazing, dude. 2021,
right?
something like that.
One or two.
It was, I think it was one or two. It was right after COVID. So it must've been one. Right. Oh my God. Chasing Fran Swan. I mean, yeah, dude.
Yeah. But he was an ultra specific guy, and did that very well for a decade. And that's what he knows as an athlete. But I think he's also a total super fan. Like he definitely he knows the names, he gets into it, So yeah, I think in some ways he follows the trends, and that sort of is like, if the trend's on ultra, then you focus on ultra. But nobody can ignore the Western States week. It's just impossible. They just shove it down your throat, and I just feel like I'd rather see that field compete in like Lavaredo or something interesting, not the Western States course, even though, again, I'm not saying I don't respect the history around it. It's cool that it's the first 100-miler in the world. It's amazing. And that it used to be a horse race. And, I'm not saying I know everything about that race, but the history is awesome. I think the way it's focused on now is a little bit much, but yeah.
No, I think it's amazing. One thing I will say is the way that we fix this, dude, and not that this will ever happen, but we just need, like, the athletes as a whole, it should just be a different championship course every year. Like a different, like, or maybe like one of three, right? Like 1 year's UTMB, 1 year's Lavaredo, 1 year's this, 1 year's that. And they just, or, La Reunion or the Grand Raid or whatever. Like, that would be a sweet one, right? Because it's super hot. Like different, and I think they all, have a degree of technicality to them. Obviously UTMB is a little bit less to an extent to, like, compared to like Reunion or something like that. But that's where the championship is. And then the athletes show up there and kind of throw down, as opposed to it always being one place or one thing. Yeah, I agree, dude. And the one thing I'll end on this one when it comes to bashing media is it's like, and I love Finn. Like Finn's a friend of mine. And like, I like, it's like how many, Because I'm guilty of this too with pre-race interviews. I'm just starting to get into doing more of them. But it's like how many different media outlets have to have the same person on twice to like talk about the same fucking thing before Western States. And it's like everybody's doing the same
Yeah.
thing.
Maybe communicate and split it up more. Yeah.
Something or do something different. I don't know. Like I don't know. But that's why, I don't even I follow it. I'm like aware of it, but as far as like getting in there and like the nitty-gritty, it's like, man, we need something different. So I don't know. I gotta ask you this: what's next for you this summer?
So I'm doing a few of these circ races. I'll do Snowbird next week. And then I'll do Alyeska. And then the next A race is Sears and all.
Nice.
Going back there, it's just man, after experiencing it last year and feeling like I had a good race but didn't totally nail it. I definitely want to try to go back and kind of nail it a bit more. I mean, always a fun excuse to go to Switzerland again or the Alps and get cut my teeth with the Euros once more. And then yeah, and then we'll see I'll find out pretty soon here. I'm hopeful for a Worlds bid. If that's the case, that'll be the end of September. And then if I do end up on that team, then that'll sort of be my last major race, I think. And then sort of, yeah, start gearing back up for skimo in the winter. So
Nice, man. I'm excited to see you at Series and all. I think that'll be, now that you've raced it, what, once or twice before already, you said?
just last year, yeah.
Just last year. All right. So you know the course. Like
Yep.
such a fast, fun race. Like obviously that's like kind of more or less the sub ultra, like mountain running, like championship in a lot of ways in its own right.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to argue that there's a more competitive trail race period, actually. I think it's been there, and it's just what it really is cool that it's the same every year and that you can compare your times directly to all these greats that have run it. I mean, I got to shake Killian's hand after he got the record last year. Like, I will never forget that moment. That was so cool to like be in the same race. I mean, not like it was actually, he was just like in his own race, or those front guys were. But just being on the start line with him is amazing. And I think it's a cool mix. It is actually there's some technical aspect to it. It's not totally smooth as I originally heard, but it's that crazy. It's like combining. I think when you train for Sierras and all, and you race it well, you have to become very good at transitioning from super steep, like hard, big watt climbing to just gunning it on flat terrain, and that skill will take you very far in trail running. Like if you can climb hard and then also run hard on flat terrain or rolling terrain, it serves you very well. So, I mean, you've probably, obviously the Killian, training regime for that is definitely something I like. I try to do a couple workouts where I'm doing one or two hard climbs mixed in with some flat tempo effort, on super flat terrain. Luckily there's plenty of areas to do that in around Leadville. And I think it's, almost like in some ways, like it's an A race, but I also almost wanted to do this because it's just so good for my training to focus on a race like that. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'm psyched for that.
Dude. So let me ask you this. If Worlds becomes a thing for you, it sounds like it's very possible. Like,
Yeah,
I'd say more
we'll see.
likely than not. Would you stay out there after Series and all, or would you come back to America and then go back out again?
I'd come back. I'd make Sierras and all a quick one because then I'll have still over a month back here before, or maybe a little under like 3 weeks. But yeah, man, I've been traveling a lot more the last few summers with Golden Trail, and then just it seems to just continue. Every time I get back to Leadville, I want to stay. I don't want to go again. I don't want to leave again. And be living in the mountains in Colorado, you probably kind of get this. Just like I want to take advantage in our short summer season. I mean, I love the snow, don't get me wrong, but the ease of access in the mountains in the summer is so fleeting. It's so, I was talking to Anton Krupicka in Italy about this. Like
you're gone for just even a couple days, and it's so hard to not think about like, oh man, I'm missing out. Like I want to get back and do this, and this, and all these things. So I always have that feeling, but yeah, at this point, I'm not trying to complain either. It's just sort of a different,
Something very special
starting
about
to
home. Yeah.
definitely, yeah. It's nice to miss home. It means I'm in a good place, and then it's definitely just a new routine for me with all this international travel. I'm still adjusting to it. So
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. I mean, I get you, man. I've been away I've been gone for 4 weeks now. We come home, we leave for home tomorrow, and it's like, man, I'm itching. I cannot wait to get back to Colorado. Like, it's not that I don't love being out here. Like, it's amazing. But that said, there's just something very special about like the high.
I mean, being in the springs, geez, yeah,
The
it's
access is
such
awesome.
an amazing, yeah.
Yeah, man. Let me ask you this. So, one more question for you before I let you go. Being in Vermont, or like growing up in Vermont, like, do you have anything you want to go back out? Like, maybe just like nail a Prezi Traverse. Like, I know we were kind of just talking about that a little bit before, or like any FKTs or anything big you want to come do out here.
Great question. There's definitely FKTs I want to go after around here. I haven't like seriously made a list or anything like that yet, but yeah, having done the Prezi now, easy. It was, man, I respect the hell out of Jack Kunzel's time now. Oh my goodness, that 338 is, whew, that is a crazy route to do that kind of time on. Mainly because it's just so technical, like the trail itself. I mean, there's parts that are more runnable, but like pretty sustained technicality the whole time. And to run that fast, you have to be like full striding most of it, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't know. I think I would have to be out here for at least a handful of weeks and really dial in my like New England technical running. I think someone like Dan Kurtz knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like it's just a different thing, and you need time to get used to it. Pemi Loop is another one. I think that might be more my wheelhouse. Well, both Prezi and Pemi Loop, but Pemi maybe just because it's longer, might suit me a little better, being slightly slower these days, or not as quick as I was in my Golden Trail years. But and then there's actually, so my family goes out and visits this island out in Penobscot Bay in Maine. And it's not an FKT, but it's in the Acadia National Park area.
Yeah.
And if anyone's familiar with it, there's a super, super rugged coastlines that are like granite, and just like very steep, and like some of it's like 100-foot granite cliffs, and that's what rings this island that I've been going out to since I was a kid. And I've done a lot of sections of coastline running, and sort of it was more rock hopping, and there's great trails that you can connect to the coast, but I've always wanted to do like the full loop around the entire island just on the rocks. And I think it would be like, I mean, there's a road around the island that's like 13 miles, but I think the coast route would be like close to 100-miler. Like it's so rugged, and like, so there's some things like that. It's more just like project based stuff. And then I would love to do like Kismet Cliff, some of the Tom Hooper races. I mean, he does a great job. I would love to do, what's that called? Not the Vermont 50, the Ragged.
Oh yeah, Ragged 75.
Ragged 75. Yeah, that'd be a cool one eventually. And yeah, I mean, it's not hard to like. I mean, Tom's constantly trying to get me to do his races, and it's going to happen one of these years, Tom. Don't worry. But yeah, being a Western boy at the moment, it's a little tricky. So
fair enough. I mean, dude, I was really blown away out here. Like, I was like, damn, like I could do. I mean, I kind of did it this year, but like I would like to do a whole season, like just East Coast stuff. I think it kind of be fun,
I think that's a great call. Yeah.
I mean, like now, Washington's a wild race. Like now they have like a COG VK. Like they've got like plenty of stuff popping
Race
up.
the COG. That's another one on the list. Yeah. Well, then you get to line up with the GOAT. So
it's true. Joe always comes back.
Yep.
Well, dude, Noah, I want to say thank you so much, man, for coming on. I hope this is the first of many conversations. It's always fun getting your perspective, and I just appreciate learning more about you and about your takes on the sport. And, thanks for being open about your races as well. Like, amazing to follow along, and wishing you the best of luck in the rest of your season.
Thanks a lot, James. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, buddy. What'd you guys think? Oh man, what a great episode. I want to thank Noah so much for coming on the pod. I really appreciate his time. And yeah, looking forward to seeing Noah at a race later this summer. Guys, before you get going, you can find Noah on Instagram. You can give him a follow at Noah Will. Handle is NOWAWILL. Give him a follow, send him a DM, let him know what you guys thought about the episode. I'm sure he would appreciate your kind words, and definitely send him congratulations on just, some of the great, amazing things he's been doing on the racing course this season so far. Yeah, if you guys enjoyed this episode, you can give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you consume your podcasts. That would be amazing. And guys, hope you enjoyed this one. Sorry about the long layoff. I've been on vacation in the Great North, playing in the mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine, and I am coming back now. So we're back and got some fun stuff loaded for you for the next few weeks and the rest of the summer. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Listen up, guys. The Steep Stuff podcast is brought to you by Ultimate Direction USA. Guys, I am so excited. UD just dropped their new Race Vest 6-liter and Ultra Vest 12-liter in 2 beautiful aesthetic colors. You guys got to check these new vests out. They're dynamic in ways like that you just have never seen from an Ultimate Direction vest. Very stretchy, lots of storage, beautiful aesthetic colorways coming to you in a new, like a white and blue and an onyx and green. Just absolutely beautiful vests. I think these ones are just like some of the best products we've ever dropped, and I'm so excited for you guys to try them out. Hop on ultimatedirection.com and use code SteepStuffPod. Again, that's SteepStuffPod for 25% off your new vest. I mean, they're already affordably priced, but 25% off is just going to make it so much more affordable for folks in an already increasingly expensive trail running environment. So hop on ultimatedirection.com, get yourself a new vest, a pack, or any hydration solution, and let me know what you guys think.